Hi, it's Nicole Witt, your miracle mentor. And today we are going to be looking at A Course in Miracles, chapter 4, which is the illusions of the ego. And today we're on section 1, right teaching and right learning. It's kind of a long section, so we'll just get at it and see what comes up. A good teacher clarifies his own ideas and strengthens them by teaching them. Teacher and pupil are alike in the learning process. They are in the same order of learning, and unless they share their lessons, conviction will be lacking. A good teacher must believe in the ideas he teaches, but he must meet another condition. He must believe in the students to whom he offers the ideas. Okay. So we strengthen our ideas by teaching them, and our teaching them helps us build conviction within ourselves that we're learning them. And we also have to believe in the students that we're teaching, right? We have to have that faith in them because they are us, right? Again, so if we're thinking this is useless, people aren't going to get it, we're really talking about ourselves. Okay, so we have to remember that when we think we're talking about other people, we're really talking about ourselves. And what's coming to me is that this is the part of the course that this was specific to something that Bill was going through at the time. If you remember, so Bill Thetford, it helped Helen Schuckman transcribe this course as it came through her. And in the Circle of Atonement version, there's a lot of backstory about where certain things came in. And I cannot say for 100% sure that this is what I'm thinking of, but it seems to go along with this, that Bill was getting ready to teach a seminar or a workshop or a class or something like that, not about the course, about something else. But Jesus kind of came through with this transmission at that time in his life when he was struggling with teaching and being able to teach. Okay, paragraph 2. Many stand guard over their ideas because they want to protect their thought systems as they are, and learning means change. Change is always fearful to the separated because they cannot conceive of it as a move towards healing the separation. They always perceive it as a move toward further separation because the separation was their first experience of change. So isn't that interesting? It's, we always say, I don't like change. We don't like change. People don't like change. Things change and it freaks us out. And it's completely true. I mean, we get set in our ways. I am going through an experience right now where my husband is going back to work. So things have changed in the dynamic of the household. He's up in the morning when I'm used to having my private time with God. He's not here to do the things that I want him to do during the day. So it's a complete change. And the first thing the ego does is freak out. Oh no, I don't like this. I don't want this. I don't like this. I like the way that things were before. Um, and it's so interesting to see that the reason we experience change in this negative way is because our first experience of change was when this idea of separation came in and it changed everything, right? You believe that if you allow no change to enter into your ego, you will find peace. This profound confusion is possible only if you maintain that the same thought system can stand on two foundations. Nothing can reach spirit from the ego, and nothing can reach the ego from spirit. Spirit can neither strengthen the ego nor reduce the conflict within it. The ego is a contradiction. Yourself and God's self are in opposition. They are opposed in source, in direction, and in outcome. Okay, so spirit and ego are completely opposed in source, direction, and outcome. They cannot be reconciled. The goal of this course is not to reconcile them and bring them together into some kind of cohesive state that we can find peace in. Because as long as that foundation of the ego is there, we'll never have peace because it's the opposite. of what brings us peace, and it can't be reconciled together. They are fundamentally irreconcilable because spirit cannot perceive and the ego cannot know. They are therefore not in communication and can never be in communication. Nevertheless, the ego can learn, even though its maker can be misguided. He cannot, however, make the totally lifeless out of the life given. So the maker of the ego, which is our mind, which is the part of our mind that wants to feel separated, no matter how much it tries, it cannot make us lifeless. It cannot take the true life, our light, the way, the truth, the life, from us. Okay? Spirit need not be taught, but the ego must be. Learning is ultimately perceived as frightening because it leads to the relinquishment, not the destruction, of the ego to the light spirit. So we're not destroying the ego. We're not trying to dismantle it, get rid of it, take it off, destroy it in any way. We are merely convincing ourselves to give it up, okay, to relinquish it to the light of spirit. This is the change the ego must fear because it does not share my charity. My lesson was like yours, and again, this is Jesus talking, and because I learned it, I can teach it. I will never attack your ego, but I am trying to teach you how its thought system arose. When I remind you of your true creation, your ego cannot but respond with fear. Okay, so Jesus is not attacking our ego. Jesus is not trying to destroy our ego. He's just reminding us, hey, we might be more peaceful and happy without it, that it is not our friend. Teaching and learning are your greatest strengths now because they enable you to change your mind and help others to change theirs. Refusing to change your mind will not prove that the separation has not occurred. The dreamer who doubts the reality of his dream while he is still dreaming is not really healing his split mind. You dream of a separated ego and believe in a world that rests upon it. This is very real to you. You cannot undo it by not changing your mind about it. If you are willing to renounce the role of guardian of your thought system and open it to me, I will correct it very gently and lead you back to God. Okay? So this is not our job. We cannot do this. We cannot undo it, okay? Because it's real to us. But we can change our mind about it. We can change our mind about if we want it. And then we can give our thought system over to Jesus. I mean, he's saying right here to him, it's not even to spirit, to God. In this sentence, he's talking about give it to me, open it to me, and I will correct it very gently and lead you back to God. And I have to say, this has been my experience because whenever something has come up in my awareness that I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't want that anymore. Like I'm willing to change my mind about that. And I give it over. It's not until it could be days, weeks, months, years later when I go like, oh, that's right. This is the lesson that I asked to work on this. I asked to give it up. And it has happened so gently that I haven't even really noticed along the way. Just all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, okay, this is what I wanted. And here it is. Here's my choice. Here, look, I'm making decisions that I wouldn't have made before. I'm not upset in the places that I would have gotten upset before. Every good teacher hopes to give his students so much of his own learning that they will one day no longer need him. This is the one true goal of the teacher. It is impossible to convince the ego of this because it goes against all of its own laws. But remember that laws are set up to protect the continuity of the system in which the lawmaker believes. It is natural for the ego to try to protect itself once you have made it. But it is not natural for you to want to obey its laws unless you believe them. The ego cannot make this choice because of the nature of its origin. You can, because of the nature of yours. Okay? So we can make a choice. We can make a choice. We get to decide what this thought system we want to live our lives from. Egos can clash in any situation, but spirit cannot clash at all. If you perceive a teacher as merely a larger ego, you will be afraid, because to enlarge an ego would be to increase anxiety about separation. I will teach with you and live with you if you will think with me, but my goal will always be to absolve you finally from the need for a teacher. This is the opposite of the ego-oriented teacher's goal. He is concerned with the effect of his ego on other egos, and therefore interprets their interaction as a means of ego preservation. Okay, this is coming back. This is the part that was for Bill, because he was had anxiety about how his students were reacting to him. And so this paragraph right here, Jesus is saying, I will teach you and I will live with you. And my goal is to get where you don't need to come to me anymore. And that is the goal of all teachers, right? So the student does not stay with the teacher all the time. They learn what they need to learn and then they can go on. And this is the opposite of what the ego would have us believe. The ego wants to, if people like us, they'll want to stay with us. Like if you're a teacher or a coach or something like that, it's like the goal of that is to help somebody in what they're going through and like release them like birds. Fly, little birdie, you don't need me anymore. But the ego is like, no, no, no. I need to keep this. Maybe they're my sense that my source of income. Maybe they're my source of feeling good about myself. Look, people are wanting to interact with me and it puffs me up, makes me feel good and important and special. And when they leave, it's like an offense. What did I do? They don't like me anymore. We can make up all kinds of stories, right? So that's all ego, because spirit's only concern is to help get the person, get whatever the situation to spirit, to light, and step back, right? It's all about teaching what you need to fly on your own. Your worth is not established by teaching or learning. Your worth is established by God. As long as you dispute this, everything you do will be fearful, particularly any situation that lends itself to the belief in superiority and inferiority. Okay? So whenever we're talking about teachers and students and one knows more and one knows less, or one is better and one is not as good, this is all fearful. It's all in the foundation of fear. Teachers must be patient and repeat their lessons until they are learned. I am willing to do this because I have no right to set your learning limits for you. Okay, so Jesus is very patient with us, and our lessons just repeat until we learn them, and there's no judgment. That it's almost like you picture Jesus or Holy Spirit or God or whatever is just like sitting back and just observing with like so much love in their heart, like, because I know you're gonna get it, like you're gonna get it, and so as long as it takes, it's all good in the end. Again, nothing you do or think or wish or make is necessary to establish your worth. Okay? Your worth has nothing to do with what you do. It has nothing to do with what you think. It has nothing to do with what you wish, and it has nothing to do with what you make. Your worth is established by God. This point is not debatable except in delusions. Your ego is never at stake because God did not create it. Your spirit is never at stake because He did. Any confusion on this point is delusional, and no form of devotion is possible as long as this delusion lasts. The ego tries to exploit all situations into forms of praise for itself in order to overcome its doubts. So the ego is a doubtful creature. It's full of doubt. It's one of its great tools, that doubt. And so how it can overcome doubt or hide it up or keep it hidden is by trying to make praise for itself, exploiting all situations into forms of praise for itself. It will remain doubtful as long as you believe in its existence. Doubt is not going away if we believe in the ego. You who made it cannot trust it, because in your right mind you realize it is not real. The only sane solution is not to try to change reality, which is indeed a fearful attempt, but to accept it as it is. Okay. So the example that I used of my husband going back to work and him changing his time he gets up in the morning, deciding he needs to get up earlier than what he was even doing when he first started working a week ago because he's not having enough time to have breakfast, whatever. So when he said last night, I'm setting my alarm for 5 a.m., I was like, that's my alone time. Like, I've been getting up at 4:30. I spent an hour and a half with spirit in the morning, and it's nice and quiet. And now it's not going to be. And I really became aware of how the ego was saying, this is not good, this is not good, this is not good. And wanting to this to change, not wanting to accept this reality, but wanting it to change, to go back the way it was, which I really don't, because I want him to be working. It's to my advantage. It's to his advantage. It's to bring him joy and out in the world, and everything that happens is for my good. The only exception is in the opinion of the ego, which is exactly what was happening last night. So when I realize, first of all, nothing is, I can't be deprived of anything. My husband cannot deprive me of my time with spirit or of my inner silence or my inner stillness. In fact, this is just an opportunity to even strengthen that, because I don't really need anything to be different outside of me in order to connect with who I am and my true self and God. That's a lie that the ego is telling me. So when he talks about the only sane solution is not to try to change reality, which is indeed a fearful attempt, because I was not at peace about this, but to accept it as it is. You are part of reality, which stands unchanged beyond the reach of your ego, but within easy reach of spirit. When you are afraid, be still and know that God is real and you are his beloved Son, in whom he is well pleased. Do not let your ego dispute this, because the ego cannot know what is as far beyond its reach as you are. Okay? So, full stop. You are a beloved Son of God. You've never changed that. You are still a beloved Son of God. You will always be a beloved Son of God. And the ego is going to dispute that, because that's its whole game. But it doesn't know you. It cannot know spirit. God is not the author of fear. Okay, you are. So we talked a couple of videos back about authorship, the authority problem in authorship. And it's about this idea that we think we can author or be in charge of our own lives, and we can't. Only God is the author of our lives. And here the theme is being brought back again. God is not the author of fear. You are. I am. We are. We made it up. I made fear up. If I'm in fear, I am writing the story, not God. You have chosen to create unlike him and have therefore made fear for yourself. You are not at peace because you are not fulfilling your function. Okay, and the function is just to be communicate with God and be at one at God and be peace and carry the light. God gave you a very lofty function that you were not meeting. Your ego has chosen to be afraid instead of meeting it. When you awaken, you will not be able to understand this because it's literally incredible. Do not believe the incredible now. Okay? Do not believe anything that the ego has to tell you. And when you fully awake, you will see like how like why would I ever believe that? Any attempt to increase its believableness is merely to postpone the inevitable. The word inevitable is fearful to the ego, but joyous to the spirit. God is inevitable, and you cannot avoid him any more than he can avoid you. So I know a lot of people spend a good portion of their lives avoiding God. I did. I did for sure. The first 30 years of my life, maybe, um, avoiding God. But thank God it's not possible that I can do that, really. Like, thank God, right? That it's not possible for me to avoid him. I will inevitably come to him, which I did, and which will everybody will do. The ego is afraid of the spirit's joy because once you have experienced it, you will withdraw all protection from the ego and become totally without investment in fear. Your investment is great now because fear is a witness to the separation, and your ego rejoices when you witness to it. Leave it behind. Do not listen to it and do not preserve it. Listen only to God, who is as incapable of deception as the spirit he created. Release yourself and release others. Do not present a false and unworthy picture of yourself to others, and do not accept such a picture of them yourself. Okay? So once you experience joy, the joy that comes from spirit, the joy that comes when you are connected with God, you will no longer have investment in fear. You will no longer want to spend time in fear because you've seen the alternative and you like that one better. Now, sometimes that's difficult to see, right? Sometimes we have an attachment to our fearful thoughts. And so we begin this process of being willing to give them up. But in the end, once you've experienced that joy of spirit, the pull of it will go stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And you will be willing to give up everything that is not true and listen only to God. The ego has built a shabby and unsheltering home for you because it cannot build otherwise. Do not try to make this impoverished house stand. Its weakness is your strength. Only God can make a home that is worthy of his creations who have chosen to leave it empty by their own possession. Yet his home will stand forever and is ready for you when you choose to enter it. Of this you can be wholly certain. God is as incapable of creating the perishable as the ego is of making the eternal. Okay? So God's not going anywhere. He's not saying, hurry up, I got an appointment. I can only wait so long for you. It doesn't work that way. Of your ego, you can do nothing to save yourself or others, but of your spirit, you can do everything for the salvation of both. Humility is a lesson for the ego, not for the spirit. Spirit is beyond humility because it recognizes its radiance and gladly sheds its light everywhere. The meek shall inherit the earth because their egos are humble, and this gives them truer perception. The kingdom of heaven is the spirit's right, whose beauty and dignity are far beyond doubt beyond perception, and stand forever as the mark of the love of God for his creations who are wholly worthy of him and only of him. Nothing else is sufficiently worthy to be a gift for a creation of God himself. I will substitute for your ego if you wish, but never for your spirit. A father can safely leave a child with an elder brother who has shown himself responsible, but that involves no confusion about the child's origin. Okay, so Jesus is saying that he is our older brother in this, right? So he will substitute for our ego. We can give him all our ego thoughts to be dissolved by him, and he can show us a different alternative. But he won't substitute for our spirit because our spirit is part of God. And so he's saying a father, God, can safely leave a child, us, with an elder brother who has shown himself responsible. Okay? So we're being entrusted, Jesus is being entrusted with us in this journey because he's done it himself and he's responsible, but in no way, but this involves no confusion about the child's origin. Okay, so we're still children of God. We're not children of Jesus. Jesus is not God. Jesus is our elder brother who's there to help us, only in that we're all brothers. We're all one. And so he is one with us. But he's kind of like, I've done it before. Let me help you, right? The helping hand. He can hold our hand and show us the way. The brother can protect the child's body and his ego, but he does not confuse himself with the father because he does this. I can be entrusted with your body and your ego only because this enables you not to be concerned with them and lets me teach you their unimportance. So if we give our ego and our body, let's call it our earthly life. If we give our life, all the things that we have to do in this world, right? Because we're a body and there's other bodies, it seems, and there's all these circumstances and situations. If we just can give all that to Jesus and step back, and by us doing that, we learn that we don't have to be personally involved. Like, these situations are fluid. They're not all that important. If we remember the line, like, how important is it in the middle of something, looking from the bigger picture, knowing the truth, okay, we can relax and we can trust God and Jesus to resolve this in a way that is beneficial, because that's the truth. Everything is beneficial. I could not understand their importance to you, body and the ego, if I had not once been tempted to believe in them myself. Let us undertake this lesson together so we can be free of them together. I need devoted teachers who share my aim of healing the mind. Spirit is far beyond the need of your protection or mine. Remember this. In this world, you need not have tribulation, because I have overcome the world. That is why you should be of good cheer. Okay, so the whole story of Jesus was that he overcame death, right? He has overcome the world, because in the world that we made, death is, that's what happens at the end. It's like, you gotta live and then you die. And he showed us that that's not true, that we are not this body, that our spirit never dies. And because of that, we need not have tribulations and trials in this world. We need not to concern ourselves with them in the way that truly destroys our peace, right? Like, we tend to want to know what's going on in the world, so we have some kind of basis for living our life here while we believe that we're here. How much we really need of that? I don't know. Like, I still read the headline. I get emails with what's going on in the world, but I don't do a deep dive. I don't get triggered. I don't need more information. I figure I'll know what I need to know if I need to know it. And I leave that to Jesus and Spirit and God. And I just remember the truth. And when something does upset me, then I can look at that and I can say, okay, like, what is upsetting me about this? What is the fearful story that I'm telling? And so then I can give it up, because in the end, it doesn't really matter what the story I'm telling. I know if I'm upset and I'm not at peace, then I'm in fear, and fear is of the ego, and it's a lie. So that's the end of that. So have a great day. Thank you so much. I love you.